Funeral services for former President Jimmy Carter will begin tomorrow. The 39th president died Sunday at his home in Plains, Georgia, at the age of 100. There are services scheduled in Georgia and in Washington, D.C. through next week. Carter was elected, of course, in 1976 when his first grandson, Jason Carter, was only one. Jason Carter is now the chair of the Carter Center Board and joins us now from Atlanta. Good morning, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So this week is going to be a celebration of your grandfather's life. What is the primary thing that you want everyone to remember about him?
You know, I think for us and my family, we just knew him as a grandfather, right? And we've shared him with the country and the world in certain ways. But I think people really connect with him because he was always just a regular guy. I think they see themselves in the love story that occurred between my two grandparents for 77 years. But really just that personal connection of this is somebody from a small town in South Georgia who was a peanut farmer who ultimately became the president of the United States. It's a pretty remarkable American story.
Jason, you are a part of a small club that grew up in and around the White House, and there are images of you at the South Lawn of the White House during that annual Easter egg roll. What are some of your memories of those times?
So, I remember being at the White House when I was a kid, a kindergartner, going to visit my grandparents, and just it happened to be that they lived at the White House. We had snowman building competitions and egg rolls and all that. And, we have all these little, memories of watching football games and sliding down ramps and these laundry carts, little things that kids do maybe at their grandparents' house. Just happened to be a more formidable house.
Did you know, though, Jason, that it was the White House when you were so little? Or did you just think, my grandma and grandpa have a big old house. Who are all these people here?
House.
Yeah.
I think I knew. I mean, every once in a while, the King of Jordan would come to the house, and we would all be there welcoming folks. But the thing that was remarkable about my grandparents is they just kept it real for so long and in so many different contexts that it really did make it easy for us.
So true.
And such memories that you can draw on before delivering his eulogy at his state funeral next week. I'm also wondering, though, we've heard so many stories from people in the past few days, stories that we just haven't heard. Have you been hearing some of these stories? Anything that stands out to you of moments that people talk about your grandfather you didn't know about before?
It's so amazing how many just personal interactions he had. I mean, I have so many friends that took a picture of him walking down the aisle on a commercial flight, shaking everybody's hand, which he did on every flight he ever took, and all of a sudden that's just thousands of people. And, so-and-so remembered him and sent me a picture of him and their daughter from a Willie Nelson concert, just out in the world. But for me, the work of the Carter Center that he and I have shared for the last 20 years is really remarkable. And we've had so many people from tiny villages around the world and world leaders just remarking on the experiences that they had and how he changed these communities all across the world. It's a real testament to, what you can pack into 100 years of life.
Yeah.
And Jason, go ahead, Adrienne.
Jason, for people who have been at the top levels of power, it's hard to come down from that. What do you think it was that kept him and your grandmother so humble? I mean, he flew economy. They went back to Plains, lived in a modest, normal home. Besides their faith, which I know was a huge part of this, why do you think, what was it that kept them so grounded?
Yeah, I think, as you said, the faith is a big part of it. They tried to be humble people. I also think kind of losing helps with the humility. But I also just think that they never thought of themselves as better than anyone, right? I mean, his best friends in Plains are peanut farmers or warehouse people or folks that drive trucks. I mean, that's who he knew growing up. That's who he respected. And even over the last 40 years working with the Carter Center, yes, he's been great partners with Bill Gates and world leaders, but he's also been partners with village community people in 600-person villages in the middle of nowhere, for example, in Mali. Because that's who he was. He came from a 600-person village. He didn't have shoes until he went to school. And I think he just has always kept that idea of respect for everybody.
and an incredible legacy that he leaves behind. And you mentioned the Carter Center that you work with also, that lives on in you and all those doing that work. Jason, thank you. Obviously, so many thinking of you and your family right now. We appreciate the time.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.